This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now for Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Now is the time for all good listeners to call 607-772-1290. And as we take to the air this morning, I have just been advised of an early school dismissal. The Franklin School District will dismiss students at 9:45. Again, the flash apparently official. The Franklin School District will be dismissing students in 34 minutes at 9:45. This has been a live news update from WNBF. Let's go directly to the phones. Good morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Well, my name is John, and I'm calling from Binghamton. And people may remember last month when I spoke at the IDA meeting, I had uncovered a bit of a scandal by comparing the tax returns of the Broome Chamber against the employment agreement of the executive director of the IDA. And what essentially I found was that her $250,000 salary between the two jobs was not permitted by her contract with the IDA, and you also had to buy in the fact that she was working 80 hours a week. So I brought this up in August with the IDA, and the IDA had a meeting on Monday, and usually when the meeting schedule deviates from the traditional Wednesday meeting, there is something up. And the IDA, and prior to this, I filed a FOIL request for any addendums to the executive director's contract and was told that there was an unsigned agreement suddenly discovered, but they couldn't give it to me under FOIL. So, voila, they meet on Monday, the board of directors of the IDA, go into executive session and approve, which wasn't in their packets, a employment agreement with the executive director. So I'm disappointed in this because I thought that when I brought it up, the IDA was going to investigate it and turn over their findings and seek restitution.
But why would they investigate something they already knew about?
Well, it would seem to me, and by the way, this is just a classic wage and hour fraud. I mean, that she was prohibited from working two jobs, and the chamber tax returns indicates that she had this $86,000 job that was full time at the chamber. So I thought that the IDA board, and you know, I'm familiar with the way board of directors operate, would, well, let's say if they didn't want to investigate, they would seek restitution for, you know, something that went on for more than a few years since her last contract was created.
But you're suggesting that the people involved on the board were unaware?
Oh, they obviously were unaware, because to do this, you would have had to look at the tax returns for the Broome Chamber, which are publicly available. You would see there that Stacey Duncan was listed as a full-time employee, 40 hours a week. So once you had that information, you would go into the contract with the IDA, which is for $160,000 plus $5,000 car expenses, and you would then determine that Stacey Duncan wasn't working 80 hours a week and was violating her employment agreement with the IDA, which prohibited any other employment. So what I'm suggesting to you is that the IDA board essentially is complicit in what amounts to a cover-up because clearly Stacey Duncan got money from the chamber and from the IDA that she was not entitled to legally by her agreements. And it's further complicated, Bob, by the IDA is the landlord. They operate out of the same building. The IDA is the landlord to the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce. So it's really quite something. And I was expecting more of the board of directors, and I think they've put themselves in a very, very precarious position by trying to cover her actions up. I mean, if the board didn't know about it, and clearly they didn't, otherwise they would have made adjustments. But what they did now, and some of these people on the board, you know, they have professional licenses, they have accounting licenses and stuff like that. So I think it was a foolhardy endeavor rather than getting to the bottom of this. And, you know, Stacey Duncan receives $5,000 car allowance. I mean, when she got in her car, was she doing broom chamber business or was she doing IDA business? So this wall of separation didn't exist, and she exploited the situation for her own benefit. And what I'm suggesting is that she pay the chamber back and she pay the IDA back.
Well, if that's what the boards want, they may be content. Sounds as though they're content with not getting any sort of reimbursement. Maybe some people knew, or maybe nobody knew, but it doesn't seem apparently that they have a concern about what transpired. I mean, of course, John, they're in the driver's seat. They have the power, and if they're members of the board, I suppose they would move to pursue something if they think it's a serious issue.
Well, okay, that's for that. You know, I was at the Vestal School District meeting yesterday. And
no. Now you're going to open up another can of wormwood Vestal. I don't want any more trouble with Vestal. Proceed.
Well, there was...
What happened?
Some students spoke out, female students in the STEM program. I guess there's 4 altogether, 2 spoke. And they are being deprived by the administration of the Vestal School District, not allowing them to go into this New Visions intern program with BAE and Lockheed. They are young women who are about 17 years old or so. They've been in the STEM program. Their goal is to be engineers. And this, of course, was the capstone of their high school career. And the superintendent of schools, first of all, he requested that I shut off my camera when they were talking. And he tried to placate them and their parents. One of the school officials just turned their back and walked away and said, "Oh, well, thank you for informing us," rather than saying, "Look, I'm going to do everything I can tomorrow morning to clear this thing up and get you into Lockheed and BAE." It's an arcane thing. BOCES puts together the program, and it's a little arcane and not very interesting, but they were working at this goal since at least their freshman year in high school. The school districts make a big deal about women in STEM and all that, and the school administrators really didn't say, you know, we're going to see to it that you are in this program that you're entitled and work for. Instead, they said, "Oh, well, thank you for informing us." You know.
Well, I would think that the students or their parents would avail themselves of this program to publicly discuss what happened. If they're concerned, I mean, this program. Well, and by the way, in fairness to everybody involved, of course, the program is open to school district representatives to explain. But if the students are unhappy, disappointed, perhaps even angry about how things went, you know, that most students, they don't have access to their phone right now because it's the school day, and they have to turn in their phones as they enter. Wonder if that's why they have the new policy. The policy of turning in. How about the new policy for like the Binghamton School District? Turn in your phones from 9 to noon, so in case something happens at the high school, you can't call Binghamton now. You can get your phones back at 12:01 p.m.
Well, it was fashionable in my era. You would build a crystal radio. That was a big project. So maybe these engineering students could build their own cell phone. But that was brought up. But I was thinking that might be a good idea for these
for the
people
parents.
and for the community to rally around them.
Well, who knows?
Because
even how about this would be a shocker, and obviously it won't happen. But even representatives from BAE Systems and Lockheed Martin. Not just calling the program, but coming in.
Yeah, I felt sorry for them. They're and their parents. I mean, they just, it's fun. What's funny about these school boards, they jump on things like public comment. Oh, you said this, or you said this, or you can't say this, but they never really spring into action like a chief executive officer should and could do. I mean, I was expecting this guy to say, we're going to clear this up tomorrow morning. I'm going to dedicate my entire morning. But I'll have an answer for you within hours. But instead, thank you for informing us. It's too bad.
Well, I don't know. That's again, I think it's if those students affected are devastated, or maybe they're not as devastated as you or I might be. Maybe they're just taking it as one more bump in the road of life, and that they're going to rise above this. But as I say, the students and their parents are always welcome to call in. Thank you, John. It's 9:22. This is WNBF. We talk about the issues. If you have issues that affect Binghamton and beyond, this is your place. A place for the issues. Weekday mornings from 9 to noon. 607-772-1290. You're welcome to participate. The more, the merrier. I'm Bob Joseph, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM. Stay connected with your favorite radio station using the free WNBF app.
Providing you with the best solutions of your lifetime. The KSO Insurance Weekly Spotlight with Karen Sweet O'Neill on News Radio 1290 WNBF.
At 9:25, this live segment is sponsored by KSO Insurance Solutions. Morning, Karen.
Morning, Bob. How goes it?
It goes well. It goes exceptionally well. I am sometimes amazed at how well it goes.
Well, that's a good report.
Yeah. The week is going nicely. I've accomplished everything I intended to do, and I do have plans for today, tomorrow, and Friday to report some original stories that will amaze and shock. Well, I don't know if it'll shock. It'll amaze some people. People are like, well, that's amazing. I had no idea. And that's the whole point of reporting. It's not simple. I think I'll sit here and smoke a Lucky and see what's on Facebook, and then say it says on Facebook that this is happening, or wait for somebody to send out a news release. You go out in the field, you get your feet muddy, you talk to people, you ask people the pertinent questions, gather information, and then at just the right time, you post it at WNBF.com and then provide coverage on air. So it's the secret to WNBF success.
I'll tell you what, you do some pretty good reporting. I'll say that.
And people are surprised. It's like, how did you find that out? Well, okay. Did you think I wouldn't? Well, I knew you eventually would, but not this soon.
Well, Bob, there's not a lot of local reporting anymore. I mean, in the paper, you read something there, it's been there. It's news 3 days ago. So it's just unfortunate that That's what it's come to be. But thank goodness that, at least you can get some local news through WNBF.
We're doing, as I say about almost everybody, this is true, I'm doing the best I can. I mean, I say it, even for people who are accused of crimes. Well, I'm sure she was doing the best she could at the time. I mean, obviously, committing crimes is not something to be encouraged, but maybe at the time, due to unspeakable pressure, she was forced into a life of crime.
Maybe.
Well, I'm trying to give people...
Or by choice.
Well, maybe. But I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm not trying to prejudge. That's why I am the ideal person to be on a jury, because I don't prejudge. I would base it only on the evidence presented at trial.
Uh-huh. So have you ever been on a jury?
I have.
I have, too. Interesting procedures. It's
wonderful, and I have to say, for the longest time in New York State, journalists were not allowed really to be, and then they changed the law, and I thought, well, eventually my number will come up in the juror lottery, and finally it did, and then I thought, oh no, because probably the judge will know me, probably the prosecutor, the DA or assistant DA will know me, and maybe even the defense attorney will know me, when one, two, or maybe all three will say, Bob, we love you. Your radio show is fantastic, but we're going to ask you not to sit on this jury. I was waiting for one of the attorneys or the judge to object, and they're like, go for it. Go for it. You're as good as the next person, and I was glad to have the experience of sitting on a jury. Not for a big criminal case, for a relatively minor criminal case, but it was intriguing. Finally, after all those years, to see the process, I was very, very pleased to be able to actually perform my civic duty by sitting on a jury. I never thought it would happen.
And they'll call you up again, so.
Hope so. Well, I guess what they say, I guess you get your ticket punched. I don't know if it's good for 3 years or 5 years. So I think either way, I think my time is about up. So I can't wait. I can't wait for the next time I'm called, and I hope it's on one of those high-profile cases.
Careful what you wish for there.
Wouldn't that be funny? It's like, I go home today and in the mail, hey, Lucky Bob. Lucky Bob, you are to report to the court at 9:30 a.m. on September 30th. And it'd be like, I don't want to go this time.
Right.
Anyway, that's not why you called. You called to provide relevant information to the masses.
I did, but it's always nice to chat.
Yeah, I like to chat.
I know. That's why you do a talk show.
Yeah, oddly enough. Perfect fit.
It is a perfect fit. So, we're talking about people that either had life insurance and it expired, or didn't get around to getting life insurance, or applied for life insurance and were declined based on medical conditions. What do? Are they just out of luck? And in New York, you are not. So, and in many other states as well. But in New York, if you are between the ages of 50 and 75, and you need life insurance, and you have medical problems, conditions that prohibit you from buying regular life insurance, then you can get a guaranteed issue. And it's up to $25,000, so that's your face amount for one company. And you can get face amounts for a couple different companies if you choose. And it's always at your attained age. Attained age is 6 months closest birthday, okay? So let's say you're a 60-year-old male and you want $20,000 of life insurance at a guaranteed issue rate. It's going to cost you about $126 a month. Now, is there any, restrictions on how and when the face amount or the death benefit is paid out? And yes, there is. So with a guaranteed issue product with companies, there's always a 2-year restriction. So if you pass away within 2 years of signing your policy and having the policy, and it's for any other reason besides an accident, then all the premiums that you have paid plus a 10% on those premiums will be paid to your beneficiary. So they do receive something. But after 10 years, Bob, or excuse me, 10 years, after 2 years, it doesn't matter, what occurs. If you pass away, your beneficiaries will receive the full face amount. So it's very important, to seek that out if you don't have any life insurance and you don't want your family burdened with the expenses of, your death, because everything costs money, including when you die. Now, if you're a female, it's going to be a little less expensive because we tend to live longer. So a 60-year-old female, instead of $126, would be about $101 for $20,000. And again, you can go up to $25,000. And in New York, you can go up to $75,000. In Pennsylvania and many other states, you can get a guaranteed issue product up to 80 years old. Now, the other restriction is that if you are power of attorney or guardianship on a person, generally speaking, you can do just about anything with bills and checking accounts and savings accounts and, mortgages and all sorts of things. But you cannot buy life insurance for that individual. So the individual has to be able to sign for themselves. A power of attorney will not count in that instance. But I'll tell you what, it's been a godsend for a lot of people because they know they have the insurance. And here's the other plus. You sign here, there's no medical questions because it's what we call a guaranteed issue. They can't turn you down. And the other thing is that, if you're in a situation and you need the insurance, then obviously you can get it, and you're always concerned with, okay, it's going to cost me $100 a month now. What about, 3 years from now? These premiums are locked in, so they cannot increase. That's a very, very good thing as well. So something that people can certainly look into. New York Life has one through AARP, Gerber Life. Columbia Mutual used to have one. I don't believe they do anymore. But there's several companies out there and that we can write that can give you guaranteed issue products. Also, just be aware that your Medicare annual notices of changes are starting to come out in the form of a booklet or a notification for your Part D prescription plans or your Medicare Advantage plans. Make sure you open that up. Make sure you read it. There's going to be a lot of changes in 2025. You want to make sure that the plan that you have is still the best plan for you, and that if you have certain medications, they are still covered, and that if you're counting on certain benefits, vision benefits, dental benefits, that those benefits are still in place. Some of them are being scaled back quite a bit with Medicare Advantage plans. Just want to make sure you know the differences and to see if that plan is still the same one for you that you should keep. And, of course, we do that up at the office, and we can help people out with that. We are at 1708 Vestal Parkway East, up above Plato's Closet and Style Encore. You can reach us several ways for an appointment. You can simply give us a call at 607-772-4898. You can Google us at KSO Insurance. All our contact information will come up, including our website. You can make an appointment that way. Or if you missed the phone number, we have a big display ad under insurance in the yellow pages.
Excellent. Excellent. Most excellent.
Well, thank you, Bob.
Well, I appreciate the info as always, and I'm sure our listeners also are grateful that you provide this information every Wednesday morning.
Mm. It's important because sometimes people don't know where to turn, and they don't even know certain products exist.
It's crazy. I mean, there's so much you need to know in so little time.
Well, it's true, and things change all the time.
That's the other thing. I've noticed, especially the federal government, just the moment you think you know it all, they come out with something new. It's like a moving target.
We are moving targets. Let me tell you.
No, that's what makes life interesting.
Well,
that's why people listen to programs like this, because
that's right. Keep on your game.
Yeah, it's never the status quo.
As my dad used to say, Bob, and I have a little plaque on my desk that he used to have on his. It says, "Nothing stays the same."
Absolutely, I agree. Hope you have a great day. Watch out! Somebody said it could rain sometime in the next week and a half. I'll believe it when I see it. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
9:37 at WNBF, 607-772-1290. What about the weather? And why can't we have rain? Why can't we have rain? He said. No, I'm not unhappy with the lack of rain. I'm just saying, why can't we have rain? I'm sure that'll be answered by the October floods. Anyway, you don't have to talk about the weather. We can talk about, I don't know, politics or something that'll bring us all together. 607-772-1290. The program is Binghamton Now. The host is Bob Joseph. The call letters are WNBF. And the frequencies, Kenneth, are 92.1 FM, 1290 AM. Again, if you're just joining us, we received word right at the start of the broadcast this morning that the Franklin School District is dismissing students at 9:45. That'll be 6 minutes and 12 seconds from now. You heard it on WNBF. 9:41. Now the forecast from the National Weather Service. Following forecast was prepared by the forecasters with the National Weather Service. Cloudy today, high 77, mostly cloudy tonight, low 57, some patchy fog developing around daybreak tomorrow, and the fog will be around for a few hours in the morning. Otherwise, tomorrow will be partly sunny, high 80. Friday, mostly sunny, high 78. For those who are concerned about the weekend, you should have no weather concerns. Partly sunny Saturday, high 76. Mostly sunny Sunday, high 72. Right now, in downtown Binghamton, it's 16 Celsius. Air quality, not pristine, but not really bad. Air quality index at the moment is 54, AQI 54. So that is in the moderate category. So breathing is still permitted. 9:43 here at News Radio, WNBF, WNBF.com. And as always, we approach politics with caution because we don't want anyone to be unhappy. We want everyone to be pleased with the proceedings. So let's see what we have from our big political stack of stuff. A big stack of stuff today. Oh, good news. The Republican candidate reports he received... he was contacted. He was contacted by the Democratic candidate. So for those of you who think that they are not on speaking terms, the truth is they are on speaking terms. Listen to this. You can't make this stuff up.
A little while ago, I got a very nice call from Kamala. It was very nice. It was very nice. It was very, very nice, and we appreciate that.
The nicest call. Yes, it was the nicest call he received on Tuesday. Except for my call, which was much nicer. But he's not going to talk about that. He certainly wouldn't talk about a private conversation. Oh, no, that happened in my imagination. I did not try to call him. Maybe I'll try to call him today. That'd be funny. At the next rally, a little while ago, I got a very nice call from Bob. No, it was very nice. It was very nice. It was very, very nice, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Bob, from Binghamton.
Kamala today, she could not have been nicer. But the fact is, we have to have people that are respected by the opponent, by the other side, by other countries.
Oh, my. See, if you wrote this into some sort of a TV script, a sitcom, or a drama, or whatever, or a movie script, you'd be laughed out. You present it to the TV network president or some streaming company, Netflix, or whatever, or a movie distribution company, present the idea. They would say, get out of here with that. Who the heck are you trying to kid? That is beyond. That is beyond belief. You can't strain the credulity of the American TV viewer or the American moviegoer. You come up with a script that's plausible, Bob. What you included in this script is so wild. It's more wild than January 6th. On the bright side, the Democratic candidate also confirmed the phone call, so we know that this was not fake news. It now has been confirmed by both parties.
I checked on him to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
And I told him what I have said publicly. There's no place for political violence in our country.
And nobody can disagree. There is no place for political violence in the USA today. No place at all. Actually, for any violence, political or otherwise. Even on talk shows, there is no place for violent discussion on the talk shows. The election now is only 48 days away, so inevitably more surprises are being planned. Big surprises and tiny little surprises, September surprises, and best of all, October surprises. So that means the candidates between now and November 6th will be on their very best behavior.
You cannot be entrusted with standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America, engaging in that hateful rhetoric that, as usual, is designed to divide us as a country.
Another thing the Democratic candidate said is the need for lots of debates. Not regular unhealthy debates, but the unusual debates that are actually healthy. So hopefully the two candidates, the Democratic and Republican candidates, will agree to additional debates. Seems to me that's valuable. I think every time candidates debate, the voter is the winner. And if the voter is the winner, that means America wins.
We can and should have healthy debates and discussion and disagreements, but not resort to violence to resolve those issues.
After speaking to supporters in Georgia, the Democratic vice presidential candidate then traveled to North Carolina, and he praised his running mate, who is currently vice president, praised her record, her proposals, and her vision for America, while also criticizing the Republican candidate for his record and his rhetoric.
Remember when they thought it was a dig because she laughs? Well, it's really great to have a president who laughs with people, not at people.
The Republican, or rather the Democratic vice presidential candidate, also called out the supporters of the GOP presidential nominee who say they support his ideas but not his approach.
And I don't really like Donald Trump, but I like what he stands for. Oh, really? Suppressing women's reproductive rights? Is that the one you want? Or is it cutting taxes for billionaires while you get screwed in the middle class? Is that the one you like?
Sorry about the harsh language there. But it is the political season, so occasionally the language could be harsh on the part of candidates because, after all, they need the job. Now think about it. In every election, at any level, national, state, local, there will be winners, but there also will be losers, and the losers will have to go out and find a job. That's the truth about it. So don't think for a minute that they're unaware that if they lose, they're going to have to start sending out resumes. See if they could find some other job to bring in cash. What else did the Democratic vice presidential candidate have to say? Oh, he did, of course. And that's the main thing of a vice presidential candidate. You really have to stay focused on essentially nonstop praise of your running mate. That's the main reason you were hired to be the vice presidential candidate. It isn't for your brilliance. It's so you can show essentially nonstop support for your running mate at every waking moment, in every rally, in every interview, in anything you say or do. You have to tout your running mate, the presidential candidate, as being the very best.
Cracks in the glass ceiling aren't enough. We need to make sure that glass ceiling is shattered and Kamala Harris steps through.
All right. So it gives you a sense. Everybody's saying, but Bob, what about the Republican vice presidential candidate? Good point.
We're not going to get the change that this country needs. We're not going to lower inflation or secure the border if you have Kamala Harris doing exactly what she's already done for another 4 years.
Let's play that again because for some reason the audio didn't sound right on the first run through. Maybe it'll sound better if we play that again.
We're not going to get the change that this country needs. We're not going to lower inflation or secure the border if you have Kamala Harris doing exactly what she's already done for another 4 years.
All right, well. Apparently that was recorded at an airport next to a plane that was running. It's 9:53 here at News Radio WNBF. Good news today with the Fed cutting rates. Gosh, I hope it's a big rate cut because that will get the economy. It's already moving well, as you've noticed. Gas prices are continuing to trend down. I was shocked. I tell you, I was shocked at how low the gas price was when I fueled up on Front Street Tuesday afternoon. I mean, at this rate, if this keeps up, they'll be giving it away. Federal Reserve officials today are poised to turn an important corner in their fight against inflation as they cut interest rates for the first time since early 2020. So our long national nightmare of high interest rates is going to start to come to an end. This story by Jenna Smialek in the New York Times, or on the Times website, says it's unclear how big the move will be. Investors are betting it'll be either a quarter or a half percentage point. Personally, I'm betting it's going to be a half percentage point because, after all, the Fed knows what Americans want. Americans want lower interest rates, so drop it by half a percentage point and put a smile on the face of the average American. According to the Times article, it'll mark the beginning of the end of an era after more than 2 years in which central bankers lifted borrowing costs to a 2-decade high and then held them there in a bid to slow the economy and bring rapid price increases under control. Also, policymakers today are going to release more economic projections. I always enjoy the economic projections because they so frequently seem wrong. Remember the economic projections over the last 2 or 3 years that we were racing to a recession? Almost every newscast on the radio and TV, or every headline in the Wall Street Journal or the Times or the Washington Post would suggest the recession was just around the corner. We had to wait for a recession. And yet the recession just never happened. It was almost as if the people who write the headlines, those people who work in the media business, were waiting, anxious for a recession. And then it never materialized. And then, oh, we're sorry. We're sorry a recession didn't materialize. The economy is just humming along too well. We're so sorry. So a new round of economic forecast will come out today, and probably a new round of, well, the recession is just around the corner. The recession is going to hit on Halloween or something like that. Anything, they'll do anything to scare you. I don't care if it's the economic forecasters or the weather forecasters. Anything to scare you to think that something terrible is just around the corner and you have to go out and buy more bread and milk. You're never going to have enough bread or milk in the house because there's going to be a recession or a half inch of rain. Or so it seems. I don't know. Maybe I've got it wrong, but doesn't it seem like there's an effort on the part of some in the media for their own nefarious reasons to scare you? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. You've been around now for a while. There's nothing to fear but beer itself. You just don't have to worry as much as they want you to worry. Take a walk in the park. It's not that bad. Go out and enjoy the day. You'll be safe. You'll get home safely. And you'll have a good time. This is Bob Joseph Live, trying to encourage you to enjoy things and not be scared right here at WNBF. Our next contributor is Paul from West Windsor. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Bob. I've been listening all morning. I was kind of touched by the phone call that Kamala and Donald Trump had together. I think it was nice. He said it was a nice phone call, and it showed a little compassion and empathy for each other, and that is a good thing. Two candidates that can show a little compassion and empathy for each other. It warmed my heart.
Yeah, but that was the nicest thing that I've heard all week.
And I think it would be nice and improbable that each candidate would include them in their administration if either or the other won.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. It's a great idea, and I think both candidates ought to give it some serious consideration.
Because they would bring country together a little bit, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's what the world needs now.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
All right, thanks. We'll see what our other viewers have to say. I agree. One of the candidates ought to propose that. And people would say, oh, please. Some people would say it's a wonderful idea. I think it's a wonderful idea that the winner of the election this year agrees to have his or her opponent serve if they wish to be part of the administration starting January 20th. What's wrong with that? Oh, that would never work. How do you know? It's never been tried. Well, get real. Get real. No. Try it. What could possibly go wrong? What harm would be done? And one of the candidates ought to propose it. The other person is not obligated. We're not going to force the loser of the election to be part of the next administration. That would be wrong. But try it. Well, what are you, crazy? No. Just try something different. Wouldn't hurt anybody. Well, that's unrealistic. Yeah, well, compared to what? Compared to the last 50 years? Or the last decade? Where people have been at each other's throats? Not literally, figuratively. Maybe a little cooperation. Well, the two parties can't cooperate. Well, maybe they could try. It's 10:27 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning there, Bob. It's Dave from Vestal. And Bob, come on. You know, I'm trying to keep my breakfast down. It's way too late for a love fest. Don't give me any of that stuff.
No, now is the time. Now is the time for a love fest. That's what the world needs now, is love, sweet love.
Who's saying that, Bob? Quick.
You know who? Coca-Cola. the Hillside Stingers.
Hey, you know, Bob. You know, earlier you were saying, "Don't be scared." Don't be scared. Do not be scared, Bob. I'm very scared. We all should be scared.
No. Do not be scared. Do not be afraid.
Well, Bob, if Harris wins, we will have, for the first time, a true far-left Marxist in office, Bob. Doesn't that scare you?
No.
It doesn't?
No, because it's not true.
It's very true, but
there are going to be no Marxists serving as president of the United States in my lifetime.
She was taught by her father, Bob. He's a true Marxist. Look it up.
Her father is not on the ballot.
Okay, well, she's got my... On the other hand, Trump...
By the way, you don't have to worry. When she's president, everything is going to be fine. She's not coming to get your guns. She's not coming to make your life miserable. Everything for the residents of Vestal will be fine after January 20th. Trust me.
Sure, Bob. The administration will still be progressive, far-left, liberal, and just ruining the country. It'll continue.
The biggest difference Americans are going to notice with the next president is that she will be able to string together a sentence that's coherent. She'll be able to answer the questions. And she won't do things that are designed to divide America, and she won't say things to denigrate individuals or groups, and she won't be spewing nonstop lies, trying to make people angry all the time. And she's not going to be on Twitter all the time either.
I love it. You've gotten very good at this, Bob. It can see right through you. You know she can't talk. She doesn't know how to talk.
I don't know. I saw the debate. I saw the debate on ABC News Channel starring David Muir and Lindsay Davis, and I was impressed by how well spoken she was. I thought the bar, thanks to the nattering nabobs of the opposition, the bar had been set pretty low, and she exceeded all expectations. I thought she was going to be just dazed and confused and not able to answer any of the questions, but she answered all the questions eloquently.
And I was surprised, too, by it. Weren't those earrings pretty, huh?
earrings were nice. It's too bad that they served no other function aside from just simply being jewelry. And it would have been nice if she had gotten some earrings that actually had some sort of electronic gizmos so she could have gotten some useful tips from Barack Obama.
He was in her ear. You're admitting it.
No, I just had to poke some fun at the from the Department of Conspiracy Theories.
Bob, can we go back to yesterday real quick on because I called it.
Oh, I was hoping we would.
Yeah.
I always, Dave from Vestal, what I always hope is we can relitigate the previous day's program.
Well, wait, remember I was saying you were a law-abiding citizen just before you went off the air? Because I know pretty much you are a law-abiding citizen. Why do we get to pick and choose what laws we enforce, especially federally, Bob? Why isn't Harris, Biden, why aren't they all charged? Why aren't these immigrants being charged? Because what they did is illegal. Why aren't we enforcing these laws, Bob, at the border? What do we overlook it for humanity reasons? Is that a good enough reason, Bob? I don't think so. Where's
the reality in America, every community in America, the truth is laws are constantly being selectively enforced. Even as I speak here in Broome County, many, if not most laws are not being actively enforced. So it's always been that way. In my lifetime, laws have been selectively enforced. Part of it is we just don't have enough law enforcers. If every law that's on the books at every level, local, state, and federal, every law and regulation were to be enforced consistently, we'd need a lot more cops. We don't have the money.
That fact alone, Bob, what Biden and Harris did at the border for 3.5 years, what they allowed to go on, but just that alone, Bob, disqualifies her being president. Do you want more of that, Bob?
No, I want less of that. I want strong borders. I want consistent enforcement of America's existing immigration laws. And I also want that those who do come into this country looking for a better life, I want their cases to be handled expeditiously.
Yep. We'll have to walk out of our houses with a gun on each hip, Bob, eventually. That's what will happen.
No, I'm not. Good thing I'm not going to be walking on your street. Jeez. Not going to walk on that street in Vestal. Guy. Armed with 2 guns. It's 10:33, WNBF. More calls, more often. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
I'm John from Binghamton.
Yeah, what's going on?
Good morning. I just wanted to say that I wanted to support Dave and his thought process about what we're going to get if Harris is in office, and that is she will be a Marxist like her father. And she has Marxist ideas already. She just can't spew them out to the public for whatever reason. She's keeping them to herself so that when she does become the president, she will tell us exactly what they meant when she didn't tell us what they were before the election. So if you understand what I'm saying, I'm supporting Donald Trump and Dave, and I just want you to see if you can put some support behind them yourself.
Well, I appreciate your call. Well, thank you. It's 10:34 at WNBF. All views are being expressed as the listeners call in, and calls are handled one at a time. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. This is Vinny from Binghamton.
Hi. What say you? What say you, Vinny from Binghamton?
Yeah, yes, Bob O'Reilly. Okay.
Sorry. Wouldn't it be funny? I stupidly, and I rarely use the word stupidly, but I'll apply it in my case. I stupidly sent a note to Bill O'Reilly. This is serious. I am not making this up. So I was watching Newsmax the other night. By the way, all of this is true.
Bob, were you sick? What?
Stop that.
Go ahead.
Stop. Let me hold on a second, because
that's where all the Fox rejects go. They all go there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, hold on a second here. So here's. Okay. Let's see, because I didn't think. This is private communication, but I don't think Bill O'Reilly will mind since he didn't respond to my note. If he responded, I wouldn't put his response on the air probably, unless it seemed entertaining. So I sent a note at 7:23 p.m. Monday, so whatever, day and a half ago. And it says, WNBF Binghamton interview request. I put that in the subject line because I thought, well, he knows where Binghamton is because he got his media start down at Action News in Scranton. So, it's just funny, but maybe the fact that I am from Binghamton hit too close to home. He probably would think I would bring up his brief career at Channel 16 in Scranton, which I would. But anyway, so WNBF Binghamton interview request. Just watched the Newsmax segment. Would you be available for a short call-in to our live program sometime this week? And then I signed it with all the relevant information. So that was sent at 7:23 p.m. because I was so moved by his comments on Newsmax on Monday night, and I've heard nothing. He didn't even acknowledge. They didn't even have it set up. I mean, it didn't bounce back, so it was the right email address. So I'm sure he read it, and probably as soon as he saw WNBF Binghamton interview request, he probably deleted it. But, there's still a chance, though, maybe because of the volume of emails and the interview requests he receives every night, maybe he still is considering when he might be available this week to call in. But in all seriousness... And even you, Vinny, I won't tell you what he said, but if I can get him on the program, we'll talk about what he said on Newsmax on Monday night. And I submit to you, and are you sitting down?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sitting down.
I will go so far to say if he repeats on WNBF radio some morning this week, what he said on Newsmax on Monday night, you actually would agree with him.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Yeah. Check it out. Probably check it out online from Newsmax.com because at this stage it doesn't look too promising that he's going to do a short call into this program. But who knows? I've been surprised before. That one time when I requested Donald Trump to come on the program, we got 7 minutes notice that, from his office, hi, this is Donald Trump headquarters. Would Bob like to talk with him? And it's like Kathy White said, she came in here and said, Bob, it's Donald Trump's office. Do you want to talk with him on the air? It's like, yeah, I guess. So, as they say, I use that example, and it's happened a few times before, as they say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. The worst they can do is say no, or in this case, it's even worse. It's kind of like bombing at a comedy club where nobody reacts. Not getting any response at all is actually worse than getting a response, a blunt response from Bill O'Reilly, no way, no how. I mean, at least then I would know he read the email and he's familiar with the program. But just the fact that he, up to this point, has ignored my request suggests that maybe Binghamton Now isn't as important as I thought it might be.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, you just saying that on this program just once again shows you how much you reach out to everybody.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And some people would say, some people probably are listening and say, Bob, you're making that all up. And for one thing, you weren't watching Newsmax on Monday night, so you didn't hear what Bill O'Reilly had to say, so you're making the whole thing up. And furthermore, you didn't send 5 minutes after Bill O'Reilly's segment was over on Newsmax on Monday evening, you didn't send him an email to request that he call into the program because you're making it all up, and I don't trust a thing you say.
Well, that, like I said, I think I described those people yesterday.
I know. And they're, and by the way, those people, those people don't get me down. I've had conversations with people off the air who listen to the program on a regular basis, and sometimes they just shake their head. They say, Bob, I don't know. And they say, I couldn't do what you do. And then sometimes they say, how do you actually do this 5 days a week, 48 weeks out of the year? And it's like, I don't know. I'm not really sure, especially since, and this part is true as well, as I've said on the program, I didn't want to be a talk show host. I was perfectly happy 13 years ago just reporting the news. I did not aspire to stand in front of this microphone temporarily or permanently to do a talk show. Not because I didn't think I could do it. It's just not something I aspired to. Well, anyway, continue with your provocative observations, because I want you to say something. Do me a favor, Vinny, because we still have an hour and 18 minutes left in the program. I want you to say something provocative so somebody calls to try to refute your provocative statement. Go.
Well, I heard Dave talking about law enforcement and some people, how the rules change for things, and on some complaints or all that kind of stuff. And I said, hey, you know what? Let me call in, and especially for Dave, because I know of his love for music. And I know you got a lot of people that love music that call in this program. I love music, too. As a matter of fact, I got a little small trivia. Bob, music trivia. What does Isaac Hayes, Celine Dion, Sinead O'Connor, Princess Estate, Tom Petty, John Fogerty, Pharrell Williams, Steve Taylor, and Axl Rose, and Eddie Grant, you know what they have in common?
Yeah, they all want the Trump campaign to stop using their music without permission.
That's right. And did you see what happened, it was a couple of days ago here? The judge rules against Trump in Electric Avenue lawsuit. Trump will have to pay damages, legal fees to Eddie Grant for campaign use of his song in 2020. He's looking for about $300,000 damages. Now, this is what gets me. Donald Trump, why don't you play like some of the people that like you? Some of the artists like Kid Rock. He's got a lot of music out. What about your buddy Kanye West? He's got something out. Sexy Red, Billy Ray Cyrus. How come he doesn't play their music? No, he's got to go and do all this stuff. See, this is what I'm saying. Why would you want anybody in your campaign, anybody in your administration like this? This is why, Bob, what do they say? Your future is judged on your past. If this is what you've shown in your past, what makes you think we're going to believe you in the future that you're going to change, especially at almost 80 years old? I mean, that's just that was kind of like the little bit that I wanted to talk about, because I think the main thing I wanted to talk about, Bob, is if anybody read the opinion page this past Sunday. Great. It had Josh Riley and Mark Molinaro talking about the border. And if you see them both, this is what I was talking about. Josh Riley goes through it. I mean, the one part goes, the backlog of immigration cases has gotten out of control. It now takes over 4 years for the government to screen immigrants. In the meantime, taxpayers are forced to pay for shelters and other services. It's not fair to make upstate New Yorkers foot the bill for the politicians. Lack of courage to solve the problem. He's got a 3-point plan of some of the stuff that we need to do to attack these borders. Molinaro's side, first thing he talks about is remain in Mexico by deploring physical barriers and technology. And then his second part, he starts talking about Hochul, Governor Hochul. And I'm thinking, what does she have to do with our borders? Are you going to take this back to Washington and start talking about Kathy Hochul and how, we're a free state, anybody can come? That doesn't solve our border problem.
No, but on the other hand,
listen, Bob,
well, it's Hey,
well, here's the thing.
Here's the big but wait, sorry, I need to interrupt because that's what they pay me to do as a host of this program, to interrupt occasionally to show that I'm still awake. The bottom line, whether it's advertising or news releases or statements made in any forum during any kind of congressional race or any important race these days, the statements are being made because research indicates that with some prospective voters, they'll resonate. So if, for example, and I'm only using this as an example since you brought it up, if someone running for Congress brings up the name of New York's governor on an issue over which she has no control, I would say the reason that the name is coming up is because research indicates that enough of his prospective supporters would be like, oh yeah, we don't like Kathy Hochul either. So that's my theory, because I don't think I'm not going to say occasionally things don't happen spontaneously during campaigns, but I would say, and for the most part, whether it's the Republican or Democratic candidate in this district, in the New York's 19th district, they're going to say stuff that research shows will help them gain more voters. So if one candidate says something negative about Kathy Hochul or another candidate says something negative about Donald Trump, it's because the research done by their campaign suggests that it's going to help them. Either help them or hurt their opponent. So, you could say, well, everybody knows Kathy Hochul has nothing to do with the border, but the reality is not everybody knows that, Vinny.
Well, that's why I like this show, is because...
Oh, because the show, this program provides people an opportunity to perhaps clarify or correct some statements or misinformation that's out there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because my point is, if you take both of these guys' plans and you take it down to Washington, what plan would have probably been better at stopping this Peruvian gang member up here? Which plan? And Josh Riley, just reading this came right out of that Border Security and Asylum Reform. That plan that James Langford, Kristen Sinema, and Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut. This is the one I keep hammering. I keep hammering this because this was a good bill, because those borders are big. You've got to have a big plan. And there's something about the Republican Party. They don't want anything big, Bob, too big. They don't want to do it. Oh, it's going to take too much time. And that's what Josh Riley's talking about. We've got to get people down there that really want to solve this border issue. Don't give me this stuff about, I went down there and I said, oh, boy, this is a disgrace. I got back in my car and took off back to Washington. No, we got to solve this. This has been going on a long time. He talks about we need more judges. It takes 4 years, Bob, for these people to go through here. He talks about security border, faster process of handling paperwork. We need more judges. We have to update the law to give them clear criteria. It's just a backlog. And what happens is guys like this go through. And who knows? And I've heard you talk about this with that gang member. Bob, what if he came up on the bus, one of those buses that Texas is sending up here? One is snuck up on the night.
Coulda. You notice the Texas governor has not put out any denial.
Yeah.
So he knows that people are speculating. I have no idea. I have no idea if he got to East Franklin Street via some sort of bus, or if an Uber drove him from Texas to Endicott or whatever. But I think by now, after weeks have passed, the federal government and also the governments of Texas and New York ought to be able to say publicly how he got here. It can't be that difficult. It can't be that tough to figure out how the Peruvian gang leader got into the U.S. illegally and then was issued an appearance ticket for a future immigration hearing, and then after that scampered off and showed up in Endicott and was living in Endicott for a couple months. Why is that being unanswered? I rest my case. Thank you, Vinny. It's 10:50. We want answers. We should have answers. The governors of Texas and New York should have answers for us. And the federal government should have answers for us. How did this guy, who allegedly is responsible for nearly 24 deaths in Peru, how did he get from Texas to Broome County? Why are they keeping it a secret? This is Bob Joseph, live on WNBF. Let's go back to the phones at 10:53. Tom in Endwell, you're on the air.
How you doing today, Bob?
I am well. How are you?
Good. So I got something to say after, but quickly, I just want to jump back to the last conversation I had with you. The former mayor, when he first spoke, right, he said that Trump said, if you don't vote for me, there's going to be a bloodbath. That's the first thing that Matt said. Then he calls back and says a completely different line of what he stated the first time. That's a fact. You can go back and replay that soundbite. But I even asked other people that listened to the show, and I said, did I hear that right? They're like, yes. And then he came back and said, no, I was talking about, what he said in Ohio, that it would be a blood story. Well, the words don't even match up from one another. So that's what I was rephrasing to. You didn't call him out on it. And it's just like the liberal media. They jump out there. The damage is done. Just like with this shooter. We're learning more and more about this shooter, that he's also involved in a BlackRock commercial. The same with the last shooter. The liberal media jumps out there and just creates damage and then let it run. Hillary's famous saying is, you control the narrative, you control the story. And that's exactly what they're doing. Ted Dorsey asked the speaker, secretary, whatever, about what's going on, and she called him dangerous for asking that question. And that's what the liberal media does. And
all right, well, continue. You've made your point. You dislike the liberal media. All right, what else?
Well, I was listening to the liberal media last night, and what they were saying was absolutely dangerous rhetoric. They want to blame Trump for everything. The liberal media has been calling us cult, homophobic, racist, and many more names for years, and she's bringing up January 6th. And let's talk about the violence.
Oh, let's talk about January 6th. That's a good point, because if the Republican candidate winds up in the White House January 20th, I believe he has pledged to pardon all the miscreants, all the people who were brought in for bad behavior on January 6th. So I do think Americans need to consider the January 6th activities, what happened in 2021, as they prepare, was it 2020? I'm losing track now. Yeah, I guess yeah. So Americans need to consider the bad behavior that happened after the last election, so we don't see some sort of twisted repeat. And also so people who were violating federal law on that day don't get excused.
Yeah, I want to talk about the violence. Let's talk about the 2020 riots.
No, I don't want to talk about that. That has nothing to do with this election.
You want to talk about the violence?
Yeah, the violence that happened on January 6, 2021, where the one guy had basically told his supporters that it'll be wild. Well, it was worse than wild. It was weird and wacky.
Bob, you constantly want to cut me off on the riots and the amount of violence. Thousands of people were hospitalized. It was okay to smash windows. It was okay to loot. It was okay to burn police cars. It was okay to burn police stations. It was okay to...
Never. It's never okay. Violence in America is never okay. It has to be condemned constantly. Any kind of violence, especially at the nation's capital where people were trespassing. But any kind of violence needs to be condemned by all.
And then you had Democratic politicians saying, "Stay in the street. If you see something you don't like it, and let it be known that you don't want them here."
All right. Well, hey, yeah, we all lived through it. We sadly had to experience the whole thing. It's 10:57. More calls are coming up on WNBF. Wednesday morning, and the lines just can't stop ringing. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Airport Road Bob, town of Maine.
Morning. What's up?
Listen, I felt a little guilty not giving you update on the public meeting last week at the Maine Annual High School. Been kind of sitting back and listening to everybody for the last couple of weeks. I know you haven't heard from me. So there was a good turnout of Maine residents. I'm going to say probably only about 60 people showed up, which to me was a little depressing. But a lot of great comments from the people in the audience. The IDA did not answer any questions. And I get the letters mixed up of all these different agencies, but I guess the agency EDR or somebody is in charge of doing the seeker review. They did not have their lawyer there. The IDA lawyer was the only lawyer present. It was a typical dog and pony show. Like I said, it's going to be a long process fighting this project. Biggest concerns were traffic and water runoff, and most of the residents here are all on wells, so concerned about contamination. I don't know. Any questions, Bob? I mean,
no. So what's your sense? What will happen next? When will the opponents head to court?
Well, the biggest thing now is until the 24th of this month, people can still make comments. They can send in letters with their concerns to the IDA. And geez, it would be great if we had, 1,000 people out of the 70,000 people that live here, write a letter in and ask a question, because it'll slow the process down even further, because they have to answer every question in their review. The town of Maine is sending a letter out in response to that meeting last week. I have no idea what's in it yet. I'll have to wait for my FOIL request to come back. But my other observation over the last couple of weeks is I listened to your show, and I love your show. I tell everybody they should appreciate what you do. Gives the opportunity to every person in this area to call and say something. Usually intelligent works, but again, you get a lot of different people calling in. My biggest concern is everybody calls in to complain about this guy and that guy. And everybody's an expert on the political view of the world here. I mean, I wish some of these local people would get more involved in the local politics. Pay attention to what's going on here locally, because our politics are so messed up that we need to start at the bottom and work up. If you're going to fix government, you got to fix it from the bottom up. And,
well, the problem is there's insufficient coverage. So
true.
So without the newspaper doing what it traditionally did, because newspaper reporters traditionally would go to city council meetings, village board meetings, planning commission meetings, school board meetings, and so on, county legislature, the IDA, local development corporation, all those things that used to routinely be covered in depth and professionally by highly skilled journalists employed by the newspaper, they don't exist anymore. And if people think that radio and TV are in a position to make up for the loss of newspaper beat reporters, that's crazy. That's to think that anybody is going to effectively replace the journalists who've been lost over the last 20 or 25 years. Actually, the problems all began in September 1985. If you want to pinpoint when the big problems with local newspapers started, it's when they combined the Press and Sun Bulletin. September 1985, nearly 4 decades ago. That was the beginning of the end. And, I remember that fateful day when Sue Clark Jackson, then the publisher of the paper, held a news conference to tout the benefits of a combined newspaper. And the person who was asking the most pointed and direct questions of the publisher at the time was me, because I saw the writing on the wall. But even then, in September 1985, actually the announcement came before that, but the papers were combined, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in September 1985, and she may have announced it in July or August, and I remember thinking, this is not good. This is not good. They're in the process of dismantling our treasured journalistic infrastructure that's been in place for decades here in Binghamton, and it turned out to be much, much worse than I had feared.
Well, we used to get both papers. As a kid growing up, I read both papers all the time. But I talked to Roy at Channel 34 News last week when he was at the school for the meeting. And, my biggest concern, and we both talked about it, is AI technology is going to destroy everything. You can't believe anything you see or read anymore unless you can verify it. And even Roy was telling me they had a story they were going to run with last week that it was so believable that it took them forever to figure out that it was a fake story. It was an AI story. And that's scary. But as somebody in the news industry that's, got to look at every single little detail to make sure it's true. I just think we're going the wrong way with the technology and the use of the politicians of using and being able to say anything and whatever they want without any repercussions. Listen, Bob, keep doing your show. You do a great job trying to get people to listen and to call in and make it even better.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your support. We always do the best we can with what we have. It's 11:18 here at WNBF. Yeah, the news business ain't what it used to be. Sadly. And, of course, don't be confused. It's not as though it's coming back. I had to look at the first episode, or the first issue of the combined Press and Sun Bulletin. That was on September 30th, 1985. That's the day that the beginning of the end happened. As they started dropping features, firing reporters, less and less news coverage, and they thought that was great. They thought it was just great. As they backed away from what for many decades was viewed as sort of a sacred responsibility. Both the publishers of the Sun Bulletin, especially when it was independent before it was acquired by Gannett in 1971, they thought it was very, very important to have real competition. Then the finances got so bad with the Sun Bulletin that they had to sell it, and they sold to Gannett. They were quite certain that if they hadn't sold out to Gannett, that the Sun Bulletin would cease to exist, and that's possible. Very difficult for an independent newspaper to compete in a town that had a newspaper that was put out by a company with deep pockets, so they could always charge less for individual copies. They could always charge less for subscriptions, and they could always charge less for advertising. So it became virtually impossible to compete. It's 11:20 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, good morning again, Bob. I just wanted to call back real quick. I just wanted to ask you, I think I just saw the video you were talking about with Bill O'Reilly. That was on Newsmax.
Yeah,
right?
From Monday night. Monday
And he was
night,
talking
probably at about 7:05.
Telling both of them to come together and stop rhetoric.
Yep.
Good. That was.
So do you see what? I recommend that people. I don't usually recommend Newsmax videos, but in this case, I wholeheartedly recommend that people seek that out online. For when Bill O'Reilly was interviewed Monday night, look for September 16th, 2024. Bill O'Reilly appearing on Newsmax. See for yourself. I might even look it up and play a portion from Newsmax with credit, since, again, at this stage, it seems highly unlikely Mr. O'Reilly will call into the program. But I would be shocked if many of our listeners would disagree with what Bill O'Reilly said on Newsmax Monday night. I would think, I know 100% won't agree. I can tell you, and I'm not going to name names, but you know who would disagree. And there are 5 listeners who would disagree. And I could name them now, but I don't want to embarrass them because of HIPAA.
Well, let me just say this, Bob, and I'll talk to my people that kind of agree with me. The Joe's from, I heard you guys joking the other day, Joe from the communists from a greater Ithaca.
Yeah, communists, and communist greater Ithaca. Communist and Marxist, are roaming the streets.
Hey, Bob, I'm going to just shout out to the Joes, the Matts, the Scotties, the Barbs, the Gary from the South Side, the Martins.
Those
the
liberals, those progressives.
That's right. You guys. Yeah. Look at Newsmax is the last thing I would watch, but you need to really watch this. It's
you
only
ought
about 8
to.
minutes.
Yes,
Scotty.
Scotty and Martin and all the rest, even if you've never intentionally watched Newsmax in your life, you should. In this case, seek it out. Search for Bill O'Reilly Newsmax Monday night. It wasn't very long, but it was enough to actually prompt me to look up O'Reilly's email address and send him a thoughtful and pleasant and very polite request to call into the program. I'm holding out hope. I'm keeping my finger crossed.
All right, maybe I can get his number, Bob. I'll call him.
No, I want him to be on the program. No, thank you for calling in. I'm glad you were able to see that. Yeah, see for yourself. Bill O'Reilly on Newsmax Monday night. I'm not going to say anything more specific, with the hope that we'll hear from O'Reilly maybe tomorrow or Friday morning. He might call in. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be pleased. It's 11:23. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. This is Martin.
Hey, Martin. Good morning.
Hey, yeah. If the January 6ers, those people are called political prisoners and hostages, then what are the shooters in Pennsylvania and Florida? Patriots? They have to be something. They have to be labeled something.
No, they're criminals. Yeah. At this point, first of all, the person who was involved in what happened in Pennsylvania is dead. The person responsible for what happened in Florida over the weekend is still alive. I haven't heard him. Has he said anything publicly since he was arrested?
The guy down in Florida?
Yeah. Has he answered any questions in court, or has he been on 60 Minutes or anything yet to give his side before they took him into custody, what he was up to in Florida?
No, I saw that video. They just kind of hurried him up.
Well, yeah, that was the body cam, and I'm glad they released it because, that shows that it clearly was a case of excellent work by law enforcement to get the guy in custody. and also have him in custody, apparently unharmed. Because sometimes I wonder how, law enforcement, especially in a high-profile case like this, and I know even from some things that have happened around here where suspects in high-profile crimes have actually been taken into custody, as they say, without incident, where nobody was hurt, where the suspect and the police officers were surprisingly uninjured. And I just think it's a big credit for police who are well-trained and also have a lot more courage than I could possess.
Well, I bet they missed him. He was there for 18 hours, though. So I'm not saying that everything that happened over the weekend was flawless. No, it's clear mistakes were made, and how that guy, could have been hanging out in such close proximity to a very famous golf course and nobody knew about it. Questions need to be answered. I agree with Dan Bongino on that aspect, is that a lot of questions have to be answered by the Secret Service and other law enforcement to explain how somebody like that was able to get so close to a presidential candidate. True, but what's the motive? The motive on the January 6th was what? Stop the steal.
Right. They weren't happy with the election results. They did not believe it. They did not believe that their guy could possibly have lost by 8 million votes to the guy from Scranton. That's the essence. They didn't believe that a Queens real estate developer could possibly have lost to a man from Scranton.
And so then what's the motive then on the shooters? I don't know.
There are a lot of questions, and maybe the answers will come out at trial.
They wanted to stop the authoritarian.
We don't know. I mean, the guy from Pennsylvania was shot to death by law enforcement, and the suspect in Florida, is still in custody, and as far as I know, hasn't been making public statements. So, people will say, well, we saw what he posted online. Yeah, well, that might explain a few things. Doesn't explain everything. So it's time, you're right, it's time to find out what the motive was and also try to figure out what it is right now in the United States that is prompting people to behave badly, to resort to violence. We can say, until we're blue in the face, violence has no place in American politics. Well, it shouldn't, but sadly, based on what we've seen in recent weeks, it does. Sadly, violence, and even, again, going back to January 6, 2021, violence had a place in American society, whether we liked it or not. There was some woman who wound up, for some reason, inside the Capitol, where she knew she was not allowed to be. And unfortunately, because she was trespassing on government property, she didn't come home.
Yeah, and, speaking of that, I also wanted to say something about the shooter in Pennsylvania, that 19-year-old kid. Trump had already said that he was going to be a dictator on day one, and
But his supporters say he was misunderstood, that the liberal media took it out of context or exaggerated what he said to make it sound a lot worse than it really was.
Yeah, but you had a 900-page book, Bob, that was, following up on that. But last night I watched it just premiered last night, Stop the Steal, a great documentary on HBO. And it's all Republican people, especially Bill Barr is one of the premier guys. And then all the officials in Arizona and Georgia. They're all Republicans. They all have voted for Trump. And it's just scathing how that took over the United States. Now that went from Arizona to Georgia, and then getting death threats and everything like that. But it started there. But it's just a great documentary. It's a must-see. I mean, a lot of people didn't have HBO, but maybe you can get it on YouTube or something.
It's too bad. Too bad they put all the good stuff on paid channels. I'm cutting back on a lot of subscriptions. I'm getting tired of being nickeled and dimed to death by these monthly subscriptions. It's no wonder people have no money for gas.
Yeah, what about sports?
That too. I know. Don't get me, Martin. Are you trying to get me started? Don't get me started. 30 minutes to go. Yes.
Yeah.
Everything. Sports, gasoline, everything. It's no wonder. And they want everything by a subscription? Come on, man. We can't afford it.
That's true.
Why doesn't 60 Minutes do a documentary about it? Why does it have to be on HBO?
Well, it's capitalism, right? You don't have to buy. You don't have to do it.
I know. I get it. I get it. I'm just saying that. Hey, I'm out of money by now. Appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm out of money by now. I can't afford every streaming service on the planet. Streaming services, cable, everything. The high cost of food. This is outrageous. Good morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
You're pathetic.
WNBF live and local. Asking the musical question, why can't J.D. Vance tell the truth about Springfield, Ohio? We'll focus on that next. J.D. Vance, why won't he tell the truth? Why must he continue to lie about Springfield, Ohio? An issue facing the nation coming up on WNBF. Who let the dogs out and who let the cats out? Why can't J.D. Vance start telling the truth? Wall Street Journal has a report. Very respectable newspaper. Operated by the legendary Rupert Murdoch. Beloved by every member of his family. A Vance spokesperson provided the Wall Street Journal with a police report in which a resident had claimed her pet might have been taken by Haitian neighbors. But when a reporter went to Anna Kilgore's house Tuesday night, she said her cat, Miss Sassy, which went missing in late August, had actually returned a few days later, found safe in her own basement. Kilgore, wearing a Trump shirt and hat, said she apologized to her Haitian neighbors with the help of her daughter and a mobile phone translation app. So the Vance campaign and J.D. Vance himself continue to spread the lies. Enough. It's 11:35 at WNBF. Joe and Owego, you're on the air.
Hi, thank you very much. The ad that Mr. Riley just played is the reason that I made the call. It seems to me that if a person wants to manage my life from an elected governmental position, I don't really care where he gets his money from. I'd like to know, in his case, what he finds so positive about the Border Act that the Republicans just did not allow to pass because it was such a great bill. Was it the open borders aspects of it, which was based on 3, 4, and 8,000 people coming across the border at any given day? Was it the number of hospital beds? What was it about that bill that was so fantastic that allows him or suggests to him that I should be more concerned about where his candidate opposition gets his money from than I am about how he would resolve the border issues of my country? I'd like him to shift his priorities to factual information about what he would do and what he finds out about this, not where his candidate opposition gets his money. Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. 11:37 at WNBF. DJ in Binghamton, you're on the air. Rob from Port Crane, you're on the air.
Hey there, Bob. I was supposed to golf with DJ this morning, but I just got done golfing, and I hadn't seen hide or hair of him. Anyway, I just wanted to say one of the similarities about those two shooters, both of them appeared in television commercials for BlackRock. Now, don't you find that a little strange that these guys had connection to BlackRock, one of the largest asset managers in the entire world? I find this very strange, and I also believe they were both. This is not just lone wolf type stuff. I think these guys, and especially I can say this because of the Newsweek interview that guy from Florida or from Hawaii that they just caught in Florida. I saw his Newsweek interview where he was over in Ukraine trying to set up, trying to talk people into going to fight and die for Ukraine. These guys both have CIA written all over them. It's dirty. Something's dirty. Something's going on. And there's another cover-up, and the FBI is doing another cover-up. I don't see how you can argue with that, Bob. Because how much have you seen out of Christopher Wray and these characters?
Well, you mentioned Newsweek, and Newsweek fortunately looked into the so-called BlackRock video. And it says, while the guy from Florida is in the video, it is not an ad for BlackRock. It is footage from a protest in April 2022 held in Kyiv's Independence Square.
Used in a BlackRock commercial.
All right. Well, Newsweek, which you just quoted from, by the way, highly respectable news organization, says, based on their fact check, it was not an ad for BlackRock. So, regardless, I don't know what it means. I'm sure in the fullness of time we're going to find out.
Well,
and by the way, who is BlackRock?
It's a guy named Larry Fink is the guy that runs it.
Yeah, and explain to me why anybody cares about the BlackRock.
Because every little thing you do is controlled by a company that's owned by BlackRock.
Nothing I do is controlled by BlackRock.
Bob, look.
Well, okay, you say every little thing I do. Now, maybe something I do is controlled by BlackRock, but when I do this program, I'm not controlled by BlackRock. I'm running it myself. BlackRock isn't telling me what calls to take and what to say. BlackRock doesn't tell me what to do.
Well, congratulations, you stand alone, Bob.
I do. A voice of independence. I am independent from BlackRock. BlackRock will not tell me what to do.
Good. Well, why don't you start talking about this cover-up that's going on with the FBI and ask some of these...
That's why Dan Bongino has a show. We're not going to replicate what Bongino is doing next hour. I mean, come on. I have to stay in my lane. I'm not a former employee of the Secret Service. Bongino is. So he has some unique insights. Just because Bongino is a national show and this is a local show, this is not the place. This is not the place to take on the CIA. Dan Bongino is the man to take on the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service, the HSI. That's a job for a big man. Bongino is the man. Coming up in 30 minutes.
Can we ever have a conversation without you taking off in your little tirade about nothing, Bob?
Look, come on, Rob. You get to say a lot of what you want to say. Just because I don't let you go on uninterrupted doesn't mean you don't get a lot of your views expressed on the program. You express quite a few of your views, but it's a conversation. I'll say something, you'll say something, but show a little respect. When you say that every little thing I do is controlled by BlackRock, that's a lie.
Bob.
It's a lie. Admit you lied on the radio.
Not every single thing.
But you said it. You said on the radio, every little thing I do is controlled by BlackRock. Don't lie to me.
I did say we do, Bob. The media is...
Oh, but that's a lie. I don't care if you don't like Rachel Maddow, and I don't care if you don't like Tucker Carlson. Everything they do isn't controlled by BlackRock.
Bob, holy cow.
All right. I can't take it when you call in and say everything's controlled by BlackRock when I know for a fact they can't control most things in this country. Please. When you call and say something, know that I'm paying attention. And if you say everything I do or everything the media does is controlled by BlackRock, maybe they want to control everything, but BlackRock will never succeed at controlling everything in this country. I guarantee it. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name?
Hey, Bob, it's me again. We lost our connection.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. It's the DJ from Binghamton. What's up?
Yeah, hey, my friend Rob was just talking to you. Actually, I was on my way to meet him, but...
Yeah, enough of that. Just stick to the issues. I don't care about people golfing. Just tell me what the issues are. You heard him. He said everybody and everything is controlled by BlackRock, and we established beyond a reasonable doubt not much is being controlled by BlackRock yet.
Black rock, white rock, we can't...
Whatever. Green rock, red rum. Nobody is controlling us. Nobody is controlling me. Nobody controls you. Nobody controls Rob. We live in America. We do what we want as long as it's within the law.
Yes. You know, I just looked at my reflection in my black window, my second door of my crossover, and my hair's looking pretty good today. Hey, but I just want to say I ended up at Shenango Bridge, but I was supposed to go meet him. So you were talking about J.D. Advance. His middle name's Ed, so he's Advance. I think he ought to change his initials back from J.D. to DJ, and he'd be better out. What are we talking about today?
Well, that's about all I got. I'm tapped out. Thanks, DJ. It's 11:44 at News Radio WNBF, home of everybody gets one call a day. 607-772-1290. This program is not controlled by BlackRock. It will never be controlled by BlackRock. We're on the air, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com. Let's go from Broome County to Tioga County. Jesse and Owego, you're on the air.
Boy, sounds like a lot of people are having a bad day at the office today, Bob.
Well, you know, when people call in and spew lies, you do have to wonder. Maybe it's just a problem with the solar flares.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Now, I sat out there for a couple nights. I never seen them. And it was clear skies, too.
Yeah, I know. And they always tell us to go out and look. It's like, yeah, go out and look for nothing. Every time they tell me to go out and look for something, Northern Lights or the lunar eclipse or the space station, I go out and look. I never see it. It's like I don't have any more time to waste by looking in the sky. Well, you just look up. It's not there. If you look enough, if you keep looking, maybe you'll find it. Well, I can't keep looking because one time, Jesse, this is true. One time they said there were going to be Northern Lights, so we hopped in the car and we went up to the airport up in the town of Maine for an ideal viewing site away from all the light of the city, and we didn't see a single Northern Light. What a waste of time.
I had the funniest time on the planet with that lunar eclipse because I'd already checked the weather forecast, and I knew it was going to be mainly cloudy. I went over to the Chamber of Commerce. I got like 7 of those special glasses you got to wear. And I went to a few businesses. I says, get ready, get out there. You're really going to enjoy this lunar eclipse. And they're asking me, well, what direction is the sun in? And I just pointed for one direction. I didn't know. I says, you're going to enjoy it. And later on, they found out they all been had by me. It's like, we didn't see a thing. I go, of course. You didn't check the weather forecast. It was mostly cloudy. You're not going to see it.
Yeah, well, I don't, you know me, I don't hold a grudge, but here it is more than 5 months later. And because I'm looking at the story I did, go to all the trouble to go up to Round Top and hang out with these people with their funny glasses and everything. Even I got some funny glasses. And we're like hanging out there, and it's like, where is it? Where is it? And at the exact time, it got dim for about a millisecond and barely perceptible. If you blinked, you would have missed it. And then it's like everybody's looking at their watch saying, well, guess that's all there is. So we were duped again by the liberal media.
Yeah, I had a business downstairs. I can't mention them by name so I don't get in trouble. But they all came up the stairway because I threw them down several pairs of those glasses. And same thing. So where's the sun? I go, it's over there. I just sat back in my chair drinking a beer, doing everything I could not to laugh. They go, we don't see anything. I go, most likely you're not going to either.
Well, to be sure, some people got to see it, but not people in Binghamton and Owego and Endicott. We were duped. We were sold a bill of goods by the liberal media. And think of all the hours. If you multiply the thousands or ultimately the millions of people who wasted time in April looking for something that ultimately we couldn't see. So imagine, I think it was the liberal media trying to wreck our economy. Because all the people, remember, they even had some stores closed. So think of the unspeakable losses. It must have run into the billions of dollars in economic losses across the country because of stores that closed, people that left work, people that are out on their eclipse deck looking for an eclipse that never showed. If the liberal media insists on wasting our time like this, it's no wonder this country can't compete in the global marketplace.
I'll tell you what, Bob, when it comes to psychology, you can have a ton of fun with it, all depending on how you use it.
Well, it's being misused. It's being misused by people telling us to look into the sky. No, stop looking at the sky for spaceships and eclipses and northern lights and southern lights and eastern lights. Stop looking into the sky and pay attention to your driving. Every time you look into the sky, there's another chance for a deadly crash. Pay attention, and even if you're walking, stop looking at the sky and watch so you don't walk off a cliff. I think BlackRock is trying to get us to look into the sky so we don't see how high the gas prices are. Although not anymore, now that the gas prices are coming down. So now the conservatives will be telling us don't look at gas prices, look in the sky, because now the gas prices are so cheap. I tanked up yesterday, Jesse, up on Front Street. I was alarmed at how low the gas price. I was going to ask the manager at the gas station, are you getting your gas through legitimate sources? How can you possibly run this station while charging such low gas prices? And then I thought, no, better mind my own business and just tank up and get the heck out of here. Because I don't want to be one of those people who, raises suspicion because I'm asking questions about where they get their gas. I don't really care as long as the prices continue to plummet the way they have been the last few months.
Well, I heard from Stanley Law. He just got back from California. He said the prices of gas is $5.35.
It always is. That's California gas. If we were getting California gas here, we'd have to pay $5 or $6. They get better gas because they're better people. They love, when it comes to driving, because it's a well-known fact, people in California love to drive more than people in New York. So they get California gas for their cars. And, of course, it's going to be $2 or $3 a gallon more than the New York gas we get.
Scotty's got a call in. I got to hear about that.
Scotty doesn't call us anymore.
What happened?
I don't know. Nobody knows.
Could be a cell phone.
Well, I hope it didn't explode.
Well, I heard about that pager thing.
And that's the thing. If they can make pagers explode, how come the same people who are making, and even they just said on the news that even more pagers are exploding today, and at least 3 more people have been killed from exploding pagers today. So if they can, Jesse, you know about these things, you know about technology. So if they can rig thousands of pagers to explode, how come they can't rig cell phones to explode?
Think about these electric cars.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Do you think they'll start rigging cell phones to explode or catch fire?
Well, I don't know. I just got a new one in the mail, and I'm afraid to turn it on.
Yeah, don't. Well, if before you turn it on, go out to like a wide open space like the Hickories with nobody around for at least half a mile radius, and then turn it on and then run. Just in case.
The first thing I'm going to do when I turn that cell phone on is I will download the WNBF app, and if that works, I think I'm good to go.
That's right. The WNBF app, it's free, and every device should have it. It helps to provide your phone with the type of protection.
Absolutely.
Protect yourself from other bad apps.
Live and local, and I got to have my toe-tapping polka, so, that's like a must.
Yeah. How come they don't put the polka show on Saturdays? When I was a kid, they used to have the polka show on Saturdays too.
I love Bill. I love Bill's weekends because he does 60s and 70s, so he moves it around, and then on Sunday is polka.
But he used to have a Saturday night polka show. How come he doesn't do it on Saturday nights? He ought to have the hits that he plays during the day on WNBF, and then have the Saturday night polka party, like for 7 to midnight. So if we want to hear polkas on Saturday night, we could hear that, and that way it sort of serves as a preview for Sunday's program.
Well, I can give you a simple answer. We're not spring chickens anymore, Bob.
You're saying it would be too much trouble?
Maybe too much work?
No. He loves it. For him, it's not work. He loves it. It's a labor of love.
Oh, I know. And that's why I'm loyal to him.
Yeah. So what I say is continue with the great music, some of my favorite songs of all time during the day on Saturday, and then at 7 o'clock, switch over to polkas from 7 to midnight.
Well, got to keep that magical toe-tapping carpet going.
I support it. I'm Bob Joseph. I support that concept. All right, well, I appreciate your call. Tell everybody in Owego Bob said hi.
I will definitely do that, Bob.
Thanks. Oh, what a great show. What a great day. Don't worry, there are 2 more shows left this week, and they continue to get progressively better. I'm Bob Joseph. I'll be back tomorrow morning from 9 to noon for Binghamton Now, right here on News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com.